What's up? We've got another really good one for you today. Eric Nahlin stops by to catch us up to date on the move to the SEC, the new freshman making noise early on, the position fits for the new offensive lineman, and a whole lot more. Inside Texas is the place to go to stay up to date on everything Texas, especially as things progress quickly through the offseason. Take advantage of some of those promo deals and sign up at Inside Texas today. And as always, don't forget to pick up your new hat for the new season from Last Stand Hats. Use promo code TexasHomer, all caps, for 10% off your purchase at laststandhats.com. Now it's time to get the inside scoop on the new happenings around the program. Without further ado, let's get into it. What up, Eric? Glad to have you back. And I saw on Inside Texas you have a new update on the Texas OU move to the SEC. Things are getting slowed down a bit due to complicating factors. So what is the quick update on the SEC move?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to run the gauntlet of balancing through politics, money, maneuvering TV contracts, and all these things. It's a complicated web, and it's not just Texas in charge of the movement. You got, a lot of people are looking out for their own interest as well. And so it's game theory on all these sides, and everybody's trying to play in their best interest. And there's a lot of different layers involved. Like I said, once you have the lawyers involved and money involved, things don't move seamlessly. It's like trying to make a 5-team trade. It's a lot easier when it's just one or two parties. And so, that's the problem. And then OU doesn't have a ton of money. So that's slowing them down. And then Texas is in a good spot. They're content to wait a little bit if that's what it takes, because they have money coming through the LHN that they're still owed. So they're not going to take a lesser financial deal because they don't have to, because they have that backloaded LHN contract that's set to expire, I think, in 2025. So Texas has the leverage on its side. OU doesn't have as much. They don't have as much money, but they'll move in tandem. One won't go without the other. Right now, it's looking most likely to be 2024.
All right, cool. 2024 works for me. And in the humidor you just dropped, we got a lot of good info on the newer guys on campus. So first off, how is Quinn adjusting to the 40?
Yeah, people are excited about Quinn Ewers being on campus, and they should be. I was going back through his highlights again just to refamiliarize myself, and I got excited all over. I remember why, everybody was so excited about him back when he was a sophomore in high school. He's transitioning seamlessly. He's showing a lot of maturity and self-awareness by not coming in and trying to be a huge vocal leader. That you can rub people the wrong way when you come into a brand new environment and start telling people what to do and barking orders. That's not going to play well with people that have been there working for years. So he understands that. He's coming in and he's trying to make a seamless transition. I can tell you this, they already respect him just because they know he's a bona fide player. They're going to respect people that lead by action, but they tend to respect players that have it, that they know that have the goods that are going to be really good. You see it all the time, far too many times at Texas in recent years, where the players that, had the credentials to lead by doing things the right way weren't good enough players to truly demand the respect of the players, their fellow players. He's coming in, it's kind of the opposite. Nobody really knows what he's really like, but they respect him because of his ability. And yeah, when they're out there, they're doing, we mentioned in the humidor this morning, that they're doing informal passing sessions twice a week. Everybody knows that he can spin the ball. It's his arm goes without saying. So yeah, they're excited to have him. He's excited to be there for sure. Sark mentioned that in the press conference. I think everybody knows that's where he always wanted to be. That's why it was kind of an easy evaluation of where he was going to end up, long ago when he did pick Texas the first time. So he's at home, but now he's got a competition on his hands. I know a lot of fans are writing off Hudson Card because of the way that he looked mentally at times. And we have heard, I haven't figured out a better way to say this, but we've heard that, balls need to drop. And that's really what's holding him back. And, don't give up on a guy that has his arm talent. Anybody that watched Cam Rising in the Rose Bowl, but also saw Cam a year or two ago, knows that was an entirely different quarterback. They mature at different times. Everybody's on a different developmental curve. And maybe Card comes in and lights it up this spring. And so, that's a good battle. But both guys have similar traits in that they can play to the whole field. So it's not like one quarterback is good at one thing and another is good at another, a different thing. Where I think Casey and Hudson were entirely disparate talent sets. And so these Ewers and Hudson are pretty similar in that regard. And they're both going to be able to take care of those new wide receivers, or that new wide receiver that just arrived on campus in Isaiah Nair.
And that's a perfect segue, because Nair was actually about to be my next ask. And he's working with Margin Hooks up in DFW, and I've seen he's impressing guys even with his physical stature. So what's the early word on Nair?
The good thing about Nair is, he comes in as a known, but then also a little bit of an unknown as well. So he's a known because we've seen him play in college and we've seen him win a lot of 50-50 balls. But, the unknown is that it wasn't the greatest competition. Wyoming only threw 15 touchdowns last year and he caught 12 of them. That's just an insane stat. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So that means he was getting a lot of attention at the same time and still coming through. So he showed big playability. I'm a little leery of that big playability translating into Texas, but he doesn't have to be what he was at Wyoming to be a very good player and help the offense overall. But early returns on him are very exciting, more than I was expecting actually. When he walks into the room, people kind of turn and look and say, they're not wondering who that guy is just because they don't recognize him. They're wondering who it is because he looks like a real player. He's really impressing people with his route running. I think on tape he looks like more like a vertical threat, but then when you watch him working with hooks and when he's in the workouts in a team setting, he's impressing with his ability to sink his hips and explode out of cuts. That's going to translate to route running. And he's going to get a lot of looks at that boundary receiver. I'm pretty sure that's where they'll play him. A lot of times that guy has to win on 3rd and 7, and you're going to do that with physicality and route running, and he has that.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, the freshman who the fans are really excited for is Justice Finkley. And you covered the early buzz coming out of the program about him as well. So what are you hearing about Justice early on?
Justice Finkley is another guy that's turning heads. It was expected. We wrote extensively on Inside Texas about how strong his mental evaluation was and his maturity level. That's definitely translated in his first few weeks of college. You always hear it, but then you want to see it once they actually get to campus because things do change. When they get that extra amount of freedom that they've never had before, are they still going to operate the same way they did when they were in high school and had the supervision of their parents? That doesn't always translate, but with him, of course, it has. I think Pete Kwiatkowski is setting himself up to be the master evaluator that we thought he was when he was at Washington when it comes to talent, because he had Finkley rated way higher than the networks did. I came around and had him personally probably higher than anybody else, just because I think he has those compensatory traits. The big knock on him is that he lacks length. Well, the way to mitigate those issues is to have quickness off the ball and power. So if you get into the offensive tackle before he gets into you, if you dictate where the hand placement's going to go, you can win those battles. And then how do you top it off? You have motor, and he definitely has that along with the footwork. So I'm really excited about him, but I don't think I'm nearly as excited about him as they are. They still think after watching him in workouts, they think they have a future beast on their hands. It doesn't mean he's going to be a boss this year. I wouldn't expect him to start, especially if they get O'Shawn Mathis, but he's going to play a lot.
And we also had a really good group of defensive backs early in roll, and they're impressing with their mental maturity, and they could even get some reps early on in their career. So who are the new DBs the coaches are noticing right off the bat?
Just as we've heard excitement about Finkley, we've heard excitement about the young DBs. One source didn't single them out. He just said that we're going to throw them to the wolves in the spring and see what comes up. But they're very excited about those 3. Other sources, they mentioned different things about each of them, but the overlapping trait with them, and it's something that you see with a lot of early enrollees, is that maturity that we were talking about with Finkley. We knew that with all of them really coming in, and again, it's holding true. Brooks is young for his age, but incredibly mature. He eats, sleeps, and breathes football. That was part of the eval. He comes from a football family. His dad won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. So I mean, that's just how he he is. The question with him is going to be whether or not he sticks at nickel. Long speed still remains maybe the only concern I have. But he's going to play this year without a doubt. He might be a perfect nickel. Long term, he could be a safety. He could be a corner. Ideally, he'll be a boundary corner after Ryan Watts. But expect him to play. There's just no way they're going to be able to keep him off the field. Jalen Gilbo has, he's stuck to who he is too. He's known for being a quiet, hard worker, and that's what he is. He's already earning the respect of the older players because of how he comes in, keeps his head down, and just does the work. I think he's probably going to be a nickel. Nickel looks to me to be wide open, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some younger players grab a hold there. They are looking at Jaron Thompson and Jahdae Barron there, but those younger guys are going to play for sure. And then B.J. Allen, he plays maybe the biggest need on the defense outside of edge, which they'll probably address with O'Shawn Mathis as a boundary safety. Right now, Anthony Cook is there. Anthony Cook is a good DB, but maybe not the perfect fit for that. BJ's coming in and working, and he comes with a great pedigree from Alito. And I think all 3 of them are going to play. Brian Allen probably has the easiest path just from a depth chart standpoint, but those other guys are talented, and they're going to come in and fight for reps.
Seems like we got some good ones in this freshman class. And now the most asked questions by fans the entire year, the offensive line. Let's hit them all and figure out where their likely positions are going to be. And also, who do you think is most likely to start early?
Kyle Flood killed that recruiting class. Put the icing on the cake with Devon Campbell on the second. Now the question is, where do they fit and who's going to play early? We've heard to expect that a couple guys are going to end up starting next year. How soon remains to be seen. I think the biggest needs are going to be fit by the best players, most likely. You got a need at left tackle, and the best player in the class to me overall, not just offensive line, is Kelvin Banks. Unfortunately, he's not an early enrollee, but I think he's going to work. He's going to work a lot of hard behind the scenes this year. Just because he's not playing football right now doesn't mean that he's not going to be practicing and working out between now and his arrival in June. And so, he's going to get every chance to win left tackle. Christian Jones is more of an ideal fit on right tackle. And so, the hope is going to be that he can come in and assert himself, and they can start jockeying people back to their proper position. The most important thing in football, one of the most important things in football is getting people in the right position. And that's how they maximize, and that's how the rest of the team maximizes. And that brings us to Devon Campbell. Devon Campbell would like to try his hat at right tackle. I have opined numerous times that I think he could play it in college just because of the footwork. And his reach is actually pretty good for a guard. His reach is longer than Sam Cosmi. He's got excellent feet. He's got athleticism and physical traits. So, man, I'm never going to count him out as playing right tackle. He's definitely a guard in the NFL. But you see a lot of times that guys play guard or tackle in college, and then they go off to be really good guards in the NFL. My question there is he the best fit at tackle? And does it preclude them from putting somebody else that's more ideally fit at tackle who's a better tackle than guard? So maybe he can play tackle, but that doesn't mean he's the best option there. It might be Cam Williams, who, despite his enormous size, is probably better in pass pro at this point than in the run game. And so you would want him out there at tackle more so than Campbell. And then you've got Umio Zulu, that I think his pass protection is underrated. He's known more for being a run blocker, but I think he can actually get it done at right tackle from a pass pro standpoint. His issue is, and it's a issue that we wish we all had. He doesn't carry any bad weight for being an offensive lineman. He's about 285. He's going to have to put on some more weight, and he definitely will. But the question is going to be, does he hold it on in August? But I think he can play early as well. I think all four of those guys I just named can play early. Cole Hudson is an early enrollee. I liken him to Hayden Connor, a mature kid going to come in and work. His issue is going to be pass protection, similar to Junior Angelo when he got to Texas. Very run-centric offense. Can he play in reverse? That's going to be a big question for him. But, a question that he won't have is whether or not he's going to work, have the size. And I think he has the footwork for it. So we'll see with him. Connor Robertson, they're going to want to get him and getting reps at center immediately. They like Jake. Jake is, probably the leader of the offensive line as you want it to be. He's not just the leader because he's the center. He's the leader because he is the leader of the line. So, he's not going anywhere, but they need to get more solid footing for the player after him. And then, of course, you've got Malik Agbo. Bit of an unknown to me from a mental aspect, but man, he's just giant and wide and can move his feet. It's kind of incredible tape when you see his body type. You would never assume that he would be that light on his feet. So you got a left tackle in Banks. You've got a right tackle or guard in Campbell. I think he's a guard. You've got another right tackle or guard, two more actually, in Umio Zulu and Cam Williams. Cole Hudson is more likely a guard, but could potentially see reps at center in the spring. And you got Connor Robertson, who is in the reverse. He's more of a center and then a guard. And then you've got Agbo, who would be, you got to try him at right tackle. You always try to find your tackles first because they're harder to find. And then if not that, then probably a guard. So he's more likely a guard. The only thing that they're lacking, if you want to say it, is they only have really one left tackle candidate.
If you're only going to have one, you're going to want it to be Kelvin Banks, though. And there's two injured guys I wanted to touch on quickly. How is fan favorite Troy O'Meary coming along, as well as Jaden Alexis?
Troy O'Meary comes up all the time because of that fanfare that he came in with in this August practice 2020 when he was, tearing up the secondary. So because of that, we still get asked about him, and really it was justified. He came in and had as much noise around him as Xavier Worthy did. He got hurt at a similar time as Jaden Alexis, and it's actually been good for him as they've been able to go through rehab and push each other through it. I think this being Troy's second time is, I'm not saying his heart wasn't in it, but you're just kind of down on yourself. And Alexis going through it the first time, he's an extremely focused kid. I think it really has helped O'Meary through this. They're going through the motions right now. They're not full speed. They are out there catching balls and stuff, but they're not out there running routes at 100%. And I'm not exactly sure what they're going to be for the spring. I tend to think that they're going to want to rest O'Meary as much as possible. They do feel confident that they've got the knee fixed right. I'm not saying that they have high expectations for him, but there's also they also don't feel like he's a lost cause at all. They're excited to see what he can do, and they're hopeful. They're not optimistic, but they're not pessimistic. They just want to see what they can do. They have the tapes, even though it's a new staff, they have the tapes from that August. And so they're excited about the potential if he is healthy.
Good to hear Troy is progressing. It's tough to get injured twice physically, but it's more tough mentally. And then I wanted to ask you some things about inside the program. Strength and conditioning didn't look great for us last year. So is building strength more of a focus this offseason?
They're definitely lifting heavier. That was the first question that I asked. We mentioned on Monday in the Inside Scoop that they were going heavier. And if anybody that watched Texas late in games, they tended to fade. Some of that's it's not monocausal. It's a lot of that had to do with being on the defense, being on the field too long when the offense would stall. but they did get pushed around far too often, especially later in games. Some of that has to do with strength more so than conditioning. And I think they're addressing that. I mean, I know for a fact they're addressing it. They've changed up the entire way that they're lifting is entirely different than it was last year, where the focus was on becoming more mobile. They're definitely lifting heavier with the goal of getting stronger, but also acclimating all these new players that they have in. They want to get their baseline strength up. So that's the goal. Sark said that's what they're doing, and that's in fact what we reported even before that. So we'll see. I don't make any promises. It's not hard to get people stronger. It's actually very easy to get these younger guys stronger. So we should see it. We should see it as soon as the spring. They'll start seeing their numbers going up. Week to week.
Hopefully, we can maintain our stamina late in games as well, because we were getting gassed in the second half far too often. And then Sark said in his presser he's looking to fill up to 36 spots. So what are the positions that are most likely to get addressed?
All eyes are on what O'Shawn Mathis will do at TCU, and we remain pretty confident that he's going to end up being a Horn. He absolutely loves Gary Patterson, and despite overtures from Clemson and Alabama, we still feel good about that. Obviously, he feels a gigantic need, a bigger need than I think even people realize. Once they lost Jacoby Jones, that run defense really started to labor. So he'll be a gigantic addition if he does in fact show up in June as we expect. He's just finishing out his degree at TCU. No harm in that. They would still take another wide receiver, I think, even though that they are liking the way that the potential in that room. There's so many different possibilities. Some of those guys are going to step up for sure, in addition to Worthy and Nair. But if somebody came available, I think they would. And then obviously inside linebacker remains a need. They went after a couple guys before during the initial portal window. Didn't work out. They're still looking at Lorenzo McCaskill from Louisiana. He's supposed to visit on April 1st. I wouldn't be surprised if they wait and see how spring ball works out. That we'll see another portal wave after spring ball, after guys are frustrated on where they are on the depth chart or for whatever reason. Sometimes they just get lost in the shuffle and talented players become available, just like they did after the fall semester. So, and then safety, missing out on Devontae Reed, the Central Michigan cat that ended up at South Carolina. That was a bit of a blow because he's exactly what they're looking for as a boundary safety that can come down and be a run enforcer. So those are the spots that they're looking for. And then, there's always a chance that just some best player available is out there. They didn't necessarily need Ryan Watts, but they're like, damn, this guy's really good. Let's get him. They were okay at corner. But if somebody like Ryan Watts at a different position comes available, they'll have to entertain that as well.
Man, I love the transfer portal. And we have two new hires in Tashard Choice and Brennan Marion. So what are you hearing about both of those guys from inside the program?
Tashard Choice and Brendan Marion, that's just what the doctor ordered, not just for the program, but for recruiting. 80% of recruiting is enthusiasm, and those guys have it in abundance. You can see the relatability that they have as well to players. It's palpable just from watching them interact on Twitter and seeing the clips that make it to social media, but also behind the scenes, they're very well liked. I think the program, not just recruiting, needed that jolt and energy, but also the program. When you bring in a staff that's known for developing, it sometimes lacks that youthful energy because you have the youthful energy guys around mainly for recruiting purposes. Now, the upside here is that Brendan Marion has a really good reputation as a coach as well. So it's not just a one-trick pony wide receiver coach that's there to recruit. He's there to coach, and actually, he's there to add some ingenuity to the offense as well. Even though Sark is kind of well ahead of the curve, the offensive curve when it comes to coaching. IQ, he does have a lot of respect for Marion, and I think that we're going to see some different looks this year that you're going to see a little bit of Marion's fingerprints on some of these game plans. I actually didn't necessarily believe that when they were going through the hiring process, but it's clear that they didn't just bring him in to recruit.
Awesome stuff as always, man. I always look forward to your off-season posts because they give really good insight on how the team is coming together. Please let the viewers know where to find even more daily UT content.
Yeah, come on over to Inside Texas. We're on 3. We actually just had a big company-wide meeting this morning, and it's very exciting where that network is going to go. A lot of people think that we're just going to be 24/7 or rivals. We have much bigger designs than that. It's going to be a big national college sports, college football conglomerate. It's not just going to be the traditional run-of-the-mill recruiting network. So come get on the ground level with us. We're running deals left and right. Right now, it's free for a week. We've got very good content. It's comprehensive. You like recruiting, we do that. Behind the scenes on the team, nobody does it better. Baseball, football, we cover that. Basketball, we cover that as well. So come over and give us a chance. And sometimes Homer even graces us with some comments now and then too.
Yeah, that's the board I hang out on. And that's a wrap from Inside Texas owner Eric Nahlin. And you heard the man. Go sign up at Inside Texas today. Thanks for hanging out. Watch some more of my videos here. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to support quality Texas content. As always, welcome.